Hi everyone, it's Mindy from My Creative Scoop, and I'm back with another tutorial for scrapbookpal.com. Today we're going to be doing some Copic marker coloring. I'm going to show you how to create this card here using this adorable little Yeti or Not stamp set from Lawn Fawn, and also using the magic slider die to create this really awesome interactive card. So we're going to go ahead and do some Copic coloring, and then I'm going to show you how to assemble this. So let's get started. Okay, so I've stamped my images on Copic Express It blending card using Memento black ink, and both of the images are in the same spot. So I used my MISTI to stamp. This It's a Christmas is a little bit bigger, so it actually came down a little bit, but it does, I measured it with our picture, magic picture slider, and it does fit inside the little square. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. So this is the image that's going to be shown on the card, and then this is the one that it's going to be sliding into. So we're going to be I'm going to show you how to color both of these little scenes using our Copic markers. I'm going to be first coloring the inside of the Yeti's face and his hands, which is going to be a skin tone. I like to use my R32 and R30 for some rosy cheeks. The first thing that I do when I color my skin. So I'm going to take my R32, add little dots right underneath the eyes, and then I'm going to take my R30 and I'm just going to make those little dots bigger. This is pushing that ink out and blending it out so that way it's not so harsh on the paper, and it will blend nicely into those skin tones. So now I'm going to take my E13 and I'm just going to come right along the side of the Yeti's face, and it's going to get a little bit thinner and taper off as we get down towards the bottom of the face. And then I'm also going to be adding a little shadow right on his hands. The shadow is going to be right at the base of the fur. And the next color that I'm going to be using is E11. And I'm just going to blend out my E13 a little bit. So I'm just going to come right along the side of it, smoothing out that harsh line right in between the two colors. And as we come out with each new color, we want to fill in the face a little bit more each time. And now with E00, so the hands, as soon as you run out of room, there's really not much you could do. So you're done. But with the face, we have a little bit more room, so we can add some of this E00 and also add some E000. Oops. So now I'm going to take my E000. I want to get a nice blend right along the edge of that E00 before I just fill in the rest of the face. Alright, so every time I color anything, usually if the area is large enough, I like to do a repeat coat. So that way, a lot of times I get emails, people asking, my ink still looks blotchy or it's not blended all the way. Well, that's because there's not enough ink down on the paper. So I always like to go back and add another set of colors in the exact same order and in the exact same spot that we added them the first time. So I'm going to take my E13 again and go right where I added it the first time. This is going to deepen the shadows a little bit more too, so we can really get that dark to light contrast. Add a little bit of a shadow down here on the hands. And now I'm going to take my E11, come out just a little bit more on the hands, and then again with my E00. Fill in the rest of the hands again, and as you can already tell up in here, it's all blended really nicely. So again, you want to go right along the edge of that E00 and then go ahead and fill in the rest. if you happen to go inside the lines of his little teeth, you can always use a white gel pen to remake them white. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start coloring his fur. I'm going to be using the C's, so C0, C00, C2, and C4. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of a shadow onto the inner parts of his legs and right underneath his arms. So I'm going to use C2, and we're just going to add that little bit of a shadow because we're going to be really concentrating on his fur and making it have texture, so we're not going to be adding too many other shadows, but I do want to add a little bit in these areas. So now I'm going to take my C0 and we're going to blend it out. So I'm just going to give a little flick, softening up that edge. And then I'm going to take my C00 so that way that shadow blends nicely into the white of the Yeti. Since this is such a light color, you can really get that dark to light contrast and have it blend nicely into the white of the paper. Okay, so now we're going to go back with C2 and we're going to start creating the fur texture. Now I don't like to start with the dark one because it can be very intimidating, so I always like to start with one of the lighter colors or one of my middle colors. So I'm just going to take this marker and we're just going to add all these little flicks. And you want to kind of go in the same direction of the fur, so the way that these lines are coming up here, that's where you want to go in that same direction. Now in order to make them a little bit more sporadic and not so lined up, you can go ahead and start over here and then come back over here and add a couple little flicks and then come back up here and move around on the Yeti so that way it's a little bit more spread out and not so you don't get line really right next to each other or all, you know, lined up where it's just not random. And you want it to look random because his fur is kind of going all over the place. He's a Yeti. So once it's all completely covered and I have little flicks going everywhere, we're going to go ahead and now we're going to take that C4 and we're going to do the same thing. It is a lot darker, so you might want to practice doing these little flicks on a separate sheet of paper if you don't feel confident. Alright, so just about finished here. We're also going to add a little bit of a shadow onto his little horns. So right at the base of the horn and then coming up the top a little bit. And we're also going to completely color in the little popsicle stick. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take C0. And since this is a much lighter color, we don't have to really worry and be, you know, kind of scared to put that nib to the paper. So you want to go over it and just go kind of thick. That way we have, it creates some nice shadows and it will kind of blur out that C4 so it's not so harsh. All right. Now let's go ahead and go back with the C2, finish coloring in his little horns. And I'm going to go back with my R30 just to give him a little bit more rosier cheeks. And now we can go ahead and color that popsicle. So for the popsicle, I'm going to be using BG34, BG11, and BG10. I'm going to start with my BG34 and add a little bit of color at the bottom of the popsicle and coming up on the one side. And it's going to get thinner as it comes up. And then we're going to go ahead and take the BG11 and I'm just going to give a little flick, softening up the edge of that BG34. And now with my BG10, I'm going to give a little flick right along the edge of that BG11 and then fill in the rest of the popsicle. Now I'm going to show you how you can really get a deeper shadow using the grays with another color. So we're going to take that C4 and I'm basically going to just thicken up the outline of the actual stamp. So I'm just going to come right along the bottom and a little bit coming up the side. So I'm just darkening that shadow. Now I'm going to take my BG34 and go into that BG, or I'm sorry, go into the C4, pulling it out just a hair. That way it's pulling it out and making it a darker version of this BG34. And adding that little bit of color really makes a difference. And then we're going to go ahead and repeat the BG11. And repeat the BG10. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to add a little bit to the background, just so I want to add a little bit of snow. So we're going to take the C0 and we just want to kind of make him standing on some snow. So I'm just going to kind of come off of the page, or it's going to come out of the little window, but I'm just going straight across, adding a little bit of a shadow. And then we're going to take the BG11 and I'm going to add a little bit of color right around him. It's going to be a little thicker towards the bottom. And then I'm going to take my BG10 and just give it a little bit of color. Now I'm going to take my white gel pen so I can add some snow. So I like to add little dots and then bigger circles, and then to add some dots. That way there's lots of snow. A little hard to see, but it is there. Super cute. Okay, so now we have to color our second image the exact same way. Okay, so our Yetis are colored the exact same way and they are ready to be die cut so we can put our magic picture slider together. Okay, so before you die cut your images, it's a good idea to line up the dies so that way whatever image you're using, so my Yeti, is lined up in the exact same spot. So I had to move the die up a little bit because the sentiment for this one is a little bit lower. I should have put it a little bit higher, but each of my hair on the Yetis are lined up, so now I know that they're gonna stop and start at the same spot. So they are ready to be die cut. Okay, so we have our images die cut. I have a card base here that opens from the top. The card base is 5.5 by 4 1/4, and this piece of paper is from the new Lawn Fawn Christmas pattern, and it is at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So that way I have that 1/8 of an inch border going around. So we're gonna go ahead and get our magic slider together. The first thing that we're going to do is add some Scor-Tape right along the edge of these little score lines. and we want to crease those lines as well. So I'm just gonna get it going with my fingers, just pushing it over, so that way I get that nice crease. And then we'll make sure it's creased down good. And do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so now we want to get some 1/8 of an inch Scor-Tape. Using this is so much easier than using glue. And we want to create a little bit of a thickness right here, so that way our slider, when you slide it in and out, it will go easily. So I'm just going to add some tape right along the inside there, and then remove the sticky part and close that shut. We're going to do the same thing over here on this side. And close this side shut as well. It doesn't want to come off. There we go. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and put some Scor-Tape right along the outer part on that 1/8 of an inch scored area. And we are not going to release this piece. We want to make sure that everything lines up good first before we go ahead and glue everything down. So let's go ahead and take some more Scor-Tape and just add it over here so that way it's ready. Trim this down. Okay. Then we're going to take the smaller piece that we die cut. We're going to put it inside. I want to make sure that tab pulls up. And we'll fold this down. Whoops. And then we're going to throw out the little Yeti. No. Okay, so each of these little flaps from the front, we want to make sure this first flap goes into this first section here. And then the second one's going to go into the second, and then the third, fourth. So we're just going to kind of tuck it in there, tuck in the second one, tuck in the third. Oops, I didn't tuck it in right. I tucked it in wrong. Okay, start over. Tuck in the first, tuck in the second, tuck in the third, and tuck in the fourth. So now when we close this and we pull it up, we have our Yeti or Not, It's Christmas. And I knew that was gonna be a little snug right there because I didn't go up that high, but it's still gonna work. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to glue this down. I'm just trying to make it so it's even. We're going to remove that adhesive. On both sides. I know I should be using tweezers, but I'm not. So then we're going to close this flat. Make sure your piece here is not in the way so that way it doesn't get taped down. So then you have your cute little Yeti or Not, It's Christmas. And now we can go ahead and finish putting our card together. So I wanted to put this teal border going around, but in order for me to do that and have this white trim from our magic slider, we have to cut out the window so that way it matches. And I do want to, we're going to use the window as well, and we're going to puff it up. So what we have to do is we're gonna take the window die, we're gonna line it up here so that way you can see the words and you can see the little antlers and everything. Oops, wrong way. We're gonna flip it this way. So that way everything is in the window. And I'm even on both of these sides over here. And then I'm gonna place this over it and line it up. So that way I have that 1/8 of an inch border. And then I'm holding the die in place. And now I have it here, and I'm going to go ahead and take some washi tape and keep it in place. So that way that window will cut out and it will reveal the little Yeti. Okay, so here is my little border. Fits perfect around there, so I can have that little 1/8 of an inch border to the white, so it will match my card base. And then this is the window that it cut out. So, and I'm still gonna use that. So we're gonna glue this part flat. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of glue. Make sure I put it closer to the outer edge, not in here, because I don't really want to mess up with any of the part where it's moving. And we're gonna line this up. So I have the same amount on the sides and the same amount showing on the bottom. And then we're gonna take the little window that it cut out, and we're gonna take some little foam squares and put them high up in the corners. So that way it's as far as away as the center as possible, so it doesn't interfere with the way that it slides. And then I'm going to remove these. And hold this up. And we're just going to place it right back where it's supposed to go. But since we're putting it on the foam dots, it's going to leave this really cool dimension that I like. And you can see a little bit of that white on the inside part. And I think it looks really, really cool. So then from the inside part, because I'm all about, you know, I don't really like to save scraps, but try to work with what you have. So the little square that was cut out right here fit perfectly for this little tab. So I'm just going to crease that right at the score line and take some tape or some glue and put it all up along the back side here and a little bit here and here. And we're going to attach it to the little tab. Make sure you go all the way up so that way your little arrow is all white, and make sure that it's centered so you have the same amount of cardstock over on this side as you do over here on this side. And then just hold it for a few minutes so that way it will dry. I love this glue. It dries pretty quickly. So there you have it. And then I'm also going to take my white gel pen and just add a little bit of white stitching going all the way around. So I'll finish with the little stitching. I love, love, love the way that looks. It's super cute. So then I have some foam tape that I'm going to put along the back of my magic slider pocket. Remove that. And we're going to go ahead and place it in the center of our card. And there you have it. You have your cute little Yeti or not. It's Christmas magic slider card. I hope you enjoyed this video for scrapbookpal.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day and Merry Christmas.